Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Leadership Hacks. And it's let's talk about the obvious, right? I mean, the slap that was heard around the world. And what was that slap? That slap, right, right there, right, where Will Smith hit Chris Rock. He suddenly boiled over. I mean, it's very interesting. When you watch him, when Chris Rock first tells the joke, he's kind of laughing along with the joke, and then suddenly he gets a stare from his wife, and then you can start to see he starts to boil over, get angry, walk over, boom, and there you have it. That snack that sort of hit home and reverberated across the world, right? And today, I thought it'd be interesting if we just take a step back and try to understand this whole thing of anger. Why do people get angry? Why does so much destruction, so much mayhem, so many wars start and get escalated by anger? And obviously, very simple definition from the APA is that anger is an emotion characterized by antagonism towards someone or something you feel has deliberately done you wrong, right? And anger not necessarily is a bad thing, right? It's a way for us to express feelings, negative feelings, for example. And many times, for me especially, anger, injustice, especially anger at injustice, drives me to figure out a way to solve a problem, drives me to make a difference, drives me to create something better, to solve a problem. And usually it's permeated or started by anger towards injustice, anger towards how can this happen in a country like ours? How can there be such poverty? And that anger, what we call righteous anger, sometimes, we have negative feelings, but it motivates us positively, and it motivates us to do something and enable us to find solutions. So anger in itself is not a bad thing, right? That emotion characterizes by antagonism towards someone or something you feel has deliberately done you wrong. That itself is not a problem. The problem is when there's excessive anger. Excessive anger can cause problem. Blood pressure, physical changes, you can't think straight, mental health issues, and so many other issues can be directly sort of permeated or directly the result of being angry, and especially being angry for a long time. So anger is a strange emotion, right? I mean, it can appear seemingly from nowhere and in just seconds create a powerful energy that destroy lives, families, nation. In anger, terrorist kills, husband and wife fight, strangers rage against each other on the road, and nations wage war against each other, all perpetuated by anger, by this little emotion that balls up and creates this tension. Now, obviously, we said anger can also be a good thing, right? Because when we get angry, we usually sort of boil over. And especially if you see injustice, especially if you see things that are not right, especially, mothers against drunk drivers, MADD. It was a movement that was, this woman was so boiled with anger that her son had died because of a drunk driver. She set up an organization, a movement, perpetuated and fueled by that anger to ensure that drunk drivers never drive, right? So anger has this good side to it, but it also has this bad side and downside. Now, how do we know if anger is a problem, right? How do we know if anger is a problem? Because sometimes being angry is normal. We all get angry. We all get worked up. We all sort of have this emotional angst that befalls us all. But when anger or your temper is getting out of control, what are some signs? So there's a couple of signs now. The first is your anger lasts too long. For some, you can be angry the whole day, and this is not good for you physically, mentally, your well-being, right? So if you are angry for 5 minutes, okay, fine. If you're angry for 5 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, you have a problem, right? Anger is a problem, and anger is going to destroy you, right? Now, when anger leads to aggression, like in the case with Will Smith, this is dangerous because it's uncontrollable rage, uncontrollable anger can cause you to hit someone, to assault someone, to verbally, sometimes unleash verbal garbage out of your mouth that can derail and hurt somebody for a long time. That's dangerous when it becomes aggressive, right? Now, if anger happens frequently, wow, that's also a sign that you have a problem with anger. You shouldn't be angry all the time, right? Because if you are angry all the time, it is something that's going to cause your body, your health to deteriorate in a significant way. Now, when anger becomes too intense, this is when your emotions consume you, you act on your impulse. And this is dangerous too, and this is a problem, right? Now, do you fume when somebody cuts you off in traffic? Does your blood pressure rocket when your child refuses to cooperate? I mean, that's okay. We all do this, I mean, occasionally I'm like, oh, gets, we all experience this anger, and it's normal and healthy emotion. But if you have this uncontrollable rage, if it lasts too long, if it leads to aggression, if it happens frequently, if it's becoming too intense, you need to be cautious, and you need to find ways to manage this as it could lead to significant issues down the road, right? So, I like this quote by Ambrose Bierce, who says, "Speak when you're angry, and you'll make the best speech you'll ever regret." Right now, there's obviously some other very interesting quotes on anger, and one of my favorites is this by Maya Angelou: "Is if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude." And sometimes we look at ourselves and say, "Look, I get too intense when I get angry. I anger consumes me. I get aggressive. If you don't like it, and if it happens to you, you can change. You can make a difference." This is another fantastic quote. Angry people are not always wise, and I've known this. When you don't make the wisest decisions, when you're angry, you don't actually come up with groundbreaking innovation. When you're angry, you don't create world game-changing sort of things. When you're angry, but when that anger subsides and you're still angry about the injustice, you start to let it simmer, and you start to think about solution, then it becomes a very powerful motivator for us, right? So we want anger to trigger our thoughts to solve the problem, not to react to it. And there's a danger with reacting versus responding. So the people who use anger well are people who learn to accept anger, but then learn how to not react to it, but respond to it, right? How do you respond to anger, not react to anger, right? And a couple of years ago, I wrote this little article called reacting versus responding, and it was driven by this story that me and a colleague, we were sitting in a restaurant in Pennsylvania, I think, in Philadelphia, I think, and we just finished work, and I was doing an audit on a site there, and the two of us are sitting there, and suddenly, there was this woman who became very hysterical, screaming away, and she shouted, "Cockroach, cockroach!" And there's a little cockroach running around her table, and the ladies and even the gentlemen around her table started going crazy and reacting. And then suddenly there was this waiter who kind of calmly, "Don't worry, don't worry." He goes there, he takes a cloth and he grabs the cockroach, smacks it, and then cleans it, and he walks around, coolly. Now, me and my colleague, the two of us were watching this, and it was fun, right? I mean, it's funny to watch this, but we see like a couple of people were reacting. I mean, there are people tables far away, much far. I mean, we were the next table over, but we were sitting there and watching this. The people with tables far away, cockroach, and they're like as if their lives were in danger, and they ran out, and it sort of triggered to me. There are people who can respond, like the waiter who quickly responded to solve the problem. There are people who reacted, and sometimes when we're angry, we need to realize that we must channel our anger to respond and not react. And that's the big $1 million question. How do you do that? How do you become responsive rather than reactive, right? And remember, it's a choice, right? Being reactive is a choice. Being responsive is a choice. We don't want you to be reactive like Will Smith. Boom, that's a reaction, right? And even though later on, there was this public apology, violence in all its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior at last night's academy was unacceptable and excusable. Jokes at my expense are part of the job, but joke about JS Medical was too much for me to bear, and I reacted. He reacted, right? I mean, notice that he says, "I reacted. I didn't respond. I reacted." And I'd like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line. I was wrong. I was embarrassed. My actions not indicative of the man I want to be. There's no place for violence in the world of love and kindness. I want to apologize to the Academy and so on and so forth. I am a work in progress, and it was gracious of him to apologize. But it's too late, right? I mean, the world's talking about Will Smith and his anger management issues, and his reaction and not his response. And so here, a couple of tips I'd like to share on how we can be a lot more responsive rather than reactive when we get angry, right? And so here's a couple of tips, and I'll share a number of them, and we can go. And if you have any questions, feel free to just shoot them in the comments section, and I'll be happy to answer any of your comments. So that's a bit about anger. Let's jump right. I want to show one last quote. The best fighter is never angry. So remember that. You want to be a good fighter, don't be angry. Be calm, calculated. The best badminton player is not angry. The best, and many opponents, when you play competitive sports, they try to put you on the edge. They try to get you angry because they know you won't be able to perform well when you are in the state of anger. So let's talk a little bit about a couple of the tips, in terms of how to control your anger. I have a couple of tips. There's 6, maybe more. I have a ton of them. But let's kind of go and with the flow and see where they go. First tip: notice and accept your anger. What does that mean? When you're angry, you gotta feel it. You gotta know it. I'm angry. Acknowledge your anger. Accept it. Fully realize I am getting angry. And this happens, right? It happens to me sometimes where when I'm like, I don't have enough sleep, I kind of working, and then I realize, ooh, I am going to get sick in the next day or two. And I know it, the realization has dawned on me. And I quickly I got to go quickly sleep, quickly drink a lot of water, kind of put myself down and, let's avoid as best as I can getting into that phase where I become sick. And the same thing with anger. You can start, it's not a process that happens suddenly. It's sort of, there are triggers that sort of escalate into that point where you lose it all, right? So the first time you must realize, hey, why am I so, what's happening with me? Why is this happening with me? Why is my body tensing up? What's happening? And when you realize that, you're able to then accept the anger, acknowledge it, and realize you're angry. So that's very important, because when you realize you're angry, you're able to control that anger and be able to respond rather than react. Now remember, and this is the second part of it, is that your anger is actually self-created. You'd be like, no, what do you mean self-created? Just those guys, they did this to me. That car out of nowhere came and jumped in front of me, and I have a right to be angry, and I want to be angry, and I want to be so angry, right? Now, anger doesn't come from anywhere else but ourselves. It's our unconscious response to a situation. It is self-created. It's not from outside, because the same thing can happen to two people. One is angry, one is not. Anger is not from the outside. Anger is self-created. So remember, we must be aware when our body temperature changes, tension, we see things happening to us. But I think the other thing that we must realize is that anger is actually self-created, right? Now, I got a question from Sharvina, who says, and Sharvina Daniel, thanks for joining the show, and thanks for your question. How does one process anger in a healthy manner? Example, does stewing in it help? And differentiating between normal anger responses and extreme one? Absolutely, right? And we're going to go there right now, Sharvina. We're going to go into the next few tips, which will help you to be able to mediate, will be able to manage, to be able to move anger from reaction to response, right? Because that's what we want. We want to move away from reacting to response. I mean, I've seen, a father who, saw a little kid scratching the car, and straight away took this mirror and hit the kid's, sort of fingers, and caused 4 or 5 of the, I think 4 fingers of the kid to be broken. and then later only realizing the kid was writing "I love you, Dad" on the car, scratching it. Right now, obviously, still the wrong thing for the kid to do, but the anger, the reaction, boom, cause the kid probably to be detached from the father for a really long term. I don't know how you come back from that when you break 4 fingers of your kid, right? But that's a great question. How do we process anger in a healthy manner, and how do we move from normal response to extreme reactions, right? Is that is what Sharmina says. And let me jump to the next piece, and just finish up on the realization a bit. Number 3 is anger is actually created by the false. Now, what does that mean? Anger comes from the ego or the fear that is inside you. Now, these fleeting feelings are untrue and unreal. They're nothing but the inventions of the mind, right? Because, like, I remember in a couple of football games, and I'm like, the referee made this bad call, and I started getting angry, and like, this referee is against us. Now, having been a referee myself, sometimes I realize that sometimes you're just not seeing everything, and you're just incapable of making right calls. At some time, and because I'm seeing it from only my perspective. I feel justified. I feel righteous. But when I start looking at all the variables, how can he, as a referee, be able to get calls on this side and that side and all the sides of the field, and have eyes everywhere when he's just a man, right? And you start to realize that actually you get angry because you see things in a one-dimensional manner, and you're not able to then. And the more you get angry, the more you alienate that person, and that person gets more angry at you because you're angry. Because as far as they're concerned, they're calling everything right? And this ego, this fear that is inside of us, these fleeting feelings are not true. They're sometimes unreal, and they're sometimes this invention of our mind. So what can we do? What can we do, as Sharina said? One of the things I think the best thing we can do, to be able to solve this anger, to be able to notice it, to be able to realize that it's self-created, to be able to know that it's created by the false. One of the easiest things to do, and the first and foremost things I think one needs to do is you need to be able to calm yourself, to be able to breathe, to be able to pull yourself, is take a pause, right? So whenever you're angry, right, be aware that you're angry and take a pause. Take a pause. If your heart is pounding and you feel like yelling at your friend, your family member, or the guy who just pulled in front of you in traffic, stop, take a breath, count to 10. Do whatever it takes to avoid lashing out and saying something or doing something you'll regret, right? And once you're calm, right, state to yourself what upsets you. Express your frustration in an assertive but non-confrontational way. Maybe your spouse didn't help clean up the kitchen after you made dinner, or your son borrowed your car, returned it with an empty gas tank, and whatever it is. State your concerns clearly, directly, using an I statement. For example, I am upset that you left me without enough gas to get to work. I resent it when I work to prepare a meal and you don't help to clean after, right? So do those things. Start with a very easy step where you breathe, calm yourself, ask the right questions. Why am I in this state? And then once you understand, express your frustration in an assertive and non-confrontational way. And use use a lot of I, because it's you that are upset. It's you that are feeling this rage. The other person is not. And I know a lot of people are so angry, about something, or with someone, and the other person has no idea they're upset, and the other person, la 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 la. Now this person is raging and raging and raging and shortening their life because of all the emotional tension and pain that they're harboring. The other person who supposedly caused that pain is like, oh, life is good, da 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 da. And we have to realize this is something that's happening in us, and we need to do the next step, which is let it go. Just like Frozen, right? Let it go. Let it go. Now, how do you let it go? It's easy to say let it go, right? For me, using humor to release the tension is one of the best ways. Lightening up can help diffuse tension. Use humor to help you face what's making you angry, and possibly any unrealistic expectations you have for how things should be. Don't be sarcastic. Avoid sarcasm though, because that can hurt feelings and make things worse. Just like lighten it up. Take a time out. Timeouts aren't just for kids. Give yourself short breaks during times of the day that tend to be stressful or tend to be angry. Just time out myself. I'm time out. Okay, I'm go to the corner. Read a book. Exercise, whatever it is. Do something that enables you to let it go. Right? I mean, I know a lot of people. My son has a. I just got him this punching bag. He's like, okay, go punch, and he goes punch and punch and punch and punch and you can let it go, right? Exercise, right? That enables you to let it go. So use humor, take a time out, get exercise. These are some things that enable you to be allowed to let it go. And I think the last piece, anger can only be conquered by non-anger, right? So you need to be able to have this ability to have non-anger, to conquer your anger. Now, with that, I am gonna get back to the comments and be able to see if there's any other comments. I see Eva says, I heard that counting to 10 helps to prevent anger explosion. Absolutely. It's absolutely important to do that. And we're going to take a very quick short break right now, watch a little video, and I'll come back with a lot more insights. So here's to The Secret of Happy Life by Scott Friedman.
Hi, I'm Scott Friedman, author of Celebrate Lessons Learned from the World's Most Admired Hi, I'm Scott Friedman, author of Celebrate Lessons Learned from the World's Most Admired Organizations. Today I'd like to share with you a leadership nugget about becoming happier. So what's the secret to a happier life and making that more of a habit? I think happiness depends on having gratitude for our present day circumstances and how we define our past. You see, if we look at the past through the eyes of fear and resentment and anger, you know how that shows up in our future? Fear, anger, and resentment. If we look at the past through the eyes of gratitude, that all the stuff that has happened to us has made us into the superheroes that we are today, then that shows up as hope and faith in the future. So you want to be happier, find gratitude for your present day circumstances, look at how you define your past, simply by asking yourself the question, what's the gift? If there was a silver lining in all of this, if there was some lesson to be learned, what would it be? Look at your greatest challenges right now. What's the gift? What's the silver lining? What's the lesson to be learned? Wishing you a much happier future.
Welcome back. How to control your anger, and we talked about 6 different tips. From notice and accept your anger, realize that anger is self-created. Make sure that understand that anger is actually created by a false sense that we have of ourselves. Breathe. Be able to take a pause, count to 10, and then let it go. Let it go. Exercise. Do something. Time out yourself, and realize that anger can only be conquered by non-anger. Now, I'm going to give you a quick bonus solution, and I want to talk a little bit about your love bank, right? Very quickly as we close out. So when was the last time you told your mom you loved her, or you bought your wife or girlfriend a rose, or you gave your father a book written by his favorite author, or surprised a friend with a gift, or took your boss out for a complete surprise lunch, right? It's a sad reality that we often treat the people closest to us with the least amount of affection. But when we get angry, they're the first to get, right? We get busy, we expect a lot from them, and often we hardly do these special little acts. But when we're angry, these are the people that we sort of burst out on. Now, if there's a bank account of love and you're a joint holder of this account with your loved one, it would be the equivalent of you constantly taking out money. So whenever you unleash, when you get angry, right, you sort of take withdrawals from this love account. But you need to fill it back up, right? You need to fill it back with acts of love, so that when your anger, your frustration, your hatred, your reaction kicks in, you can withdraw, but you won't break those relationships, right? Because when you withdraw too much, but you don't fill it back with love, over time those relationships will start to be disposed of. So do stuff like pay a compliment to someone, bring flowers, give your friends a nice birthday surprise, warm greetings. I mean, I try to do this on a daily basis. Look at for which of my friends are having birthdays and just send them a nice note, on a daily basis. Hey, happy birthday. Create a gift box in your home. Put little inexpensive gifts that you can find, and when the right time comes, just take a gift and give it away. Write a poem, do something, right? So anger is one piece, but the other piece is for you, whether it's to compliment someone, give presents, is to have this love account. Send a personal message, use post-it notes at home. I love to do it with short messages, right? To replace the sort of deposits, or the withdrawals that you took from your love account to your loved one. So with that, that's a quick little bonus solution. Now, obviously, you can read about all this on leeramix.com. Check out the links below. There's some great little articles for you to read. It's a great one I'm just putting out there. Stop anger from destroying you. And you can always check out on Nicole, digitalleeramix.com/Nicole app. You can check out Nicole, or go to nicole.tech and check out some of the best learning devices out there. With that, I want to wish everyone a blessed Good Friday. Have a great time. Have a great weekend. It's Easter weekend for those of you who are celebrating. A weekend where victory sort of supersedes bad, right? I mean, good. The light shines in the darkness, and it's a victory for good over evil. So with that, blessed Good Friday. Remember, stay well, stay happy. Remember, don't react, respond. And remember, don't be controlled by anger. I end with a little quote right now. I'm going to end with a little quote by William Ward that says, "It is wise to direct your anger towards problem, not people. To focus your energies on answers, not excuses." With that, happy, blessed Good Friday, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks at our Friday Leadership Hacks. Goodbye, everyone. And we are closing out with a short video on Happily, one of the best apps, I think, out there, budaya.app. So check out budaya.app, and let's close with Happily. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great weekend.